Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to show you today's video. We are going to be making these cute wristlets. I made this one just this morning and I posted it on Facebook and you guys right away wanted tutorials. So I whipped up another one and I recorded it this time. So I'm going to give you the Cricut Design Space file to cut this out, the pattern. And if you don't have a Cricut, don't worry, I've got you covered. I've also got a PDF file that you can print out and cut this out by hand. But I think this is a really fun little project for summer. It is the perfect size to throw your phone in there and some other goodies. This is a little bit bigger. It's actually quite a bit bigger than the Anna Griffin wristlet that we made last time. This has just got a single pocket this time. It's just one. And you can just put this little cute little wristlet handle on it, or like I did in this one, I made it optional so that I have two tabs. And you could instead make a crossbody handle, crossbody bag handle. So this is removable. So you could change it out from a wristlet to a crossbody bag just as easily. So without further ado, let's get started. I hope you guys are as excited as I am about this project. I think it turned out really, really cute. And this is going to make a great little grab and go purse for the summer or for gifts or whatever you want to make them for. So come on, let's get started. Okay, so here's everything you need to create this project. Now, if you have a Cricut, you can use the SVG file I have provided for you. It will cut out your outer fabrics and your lining fabrics separately, but I didn't do a separate cut file for the interfacing. I like to put my interfacing on before I cut it, so then it's already attached and it cuts perfectly. I just use the cotton setting with more pressure to cut them out, and it seems to work just fine. Now on my lining fabrics, I put Shape Flex. You can use whatever interfacing you want. I like the Shape Flex on my lining, and that's what I use for all of my lining pieces. And on my outer fabrics, I used fusible fleece. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, I have the PDF pattern below, and you can simply print that out and cut that out and use that as your pattern to hand cut. These are pretty simple shapes to cut out. But regardless of which way you're cutting it, you should end up with two main pieces of your lining fabric and one flap, and two main pieces of your outer fabric and one flap. Now you can mix and match these any way you want. If you want it the same on the inside and the outside, you can do that. Whatever you like, but I do recommend putting the fusible fleece on the outer fabrics and the Shape Flex or a woven interfacing on the linings. The other thing you're going to need is a piece of fabric cut to 2 inches by 12 inches. That's this. This is going to be our little handle. And I put a little strip of Shape Flex along one side that was cut at 1/4 inch. That's up to you. I didn't include this in the pattern because it's a simple rectangle and you can just cut that out of whatever material you want. But you're just going to fold that in half and press it with the iron. And then you're going to open it up and fold each edge into the middle, just like that. And then fold that in half and press it. Don't stitch that one closed. You're also going to need a 2 by 2 if it's a little bit longer. I just picked up a scrap. 2 by 2, and you're going to prepare it the same way. You're going to fold it in half, fold it in half, fold the ends into the center, fold it in half, and then that one I went ahead and stitched closed. That's going to serve as our handle to hold the tab to hold the handle on. You're also going to need your hardware. I've got this on a magnetic dish just so I didn't lose it throughout the video, but you're going to need a metal snap closure. You're going to need a D-ring and a lobster clasp. Your metal snaps may or may not come with these washers. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. It'll still work just fine. If it does, I'll show you how to use those. You're going to want some clips, a fabric marker, scissors, and I think that will do you. I did not include these pieces in the pattern just because they're simple rectangles, and you can use some of your scraps that are left over if you're using the Cricut file, or your scraps that are left over if you're cutting this by hand as well. So again, on this one, I use the fusible fleece on all of my outer fabrics. So on this piece and on this piece and the back piece. And on my lining pieces, I use the woven interfacing. Again, you can mix that up any way you want to do it. that's perfectly fine. This is my handle, and again, you can make that out of your lining fabric, you can make it out of your outer fabrics, whatever you want. You can mix and match this however you want. Don't feel like you have to do it the way I did. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare our snaps. So you need to be really careful. We're going to put the snap on the flap that's going to be your lining. So when this gets put together, this is going to be like this. This is going to be my outer fabric. This is going to look like this. This is going to be my flap, and this is going to be my outer. So my other piece of the flap is going to be this piece. So the one that you have the shape flex on is the one that we're going to be working with right now. So you're going to take that piece and you're going to fold it in half, finger crease it to find that center point. All right, once you have that, we're going to turn it around this way. Well, it might be easier to see it on the lining side. And we're going to use a ruler and a fabric marker, and we're going to mark up right down that center line 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches from that center mark, from the side that has the rounded edge, and you're just going to make a mark, just like that. All right, so in order to put that piece in, what you're going to do, if you have the washer, you're going to take the washer and center the circle of the washer right over that mark that you just made. And then you're going to mark the two sides with your fabric marker so that it looks just like this. You can see that. Let me move the washer. Maybe that'll give you a better idea. If you don't have the washer, simply take your snap and center it over that circle, and then just kind of guess where your prongs are and just mark right below the prongs. All right, once you have your marks made, you're just going to use a seam ripper and you're just going to put it right into that side marking, not the middle, but the side on either side, and just slightly make a small hole. Don't make it too big. It's always easier to make it bigger if you need to. All right, so now we're going to put the snap side, and it doesn't matter which side of the two-part snap you're using. You're going to put it so it's on the outside and the prongs are coming through the back. So just like so. You should see the snap on the pretty side and the prongs coming through the back. If yours came with a washer, you're going to put that washer on and then bend those back. So now we have our snap installed on the flap of it's the lining flap, the one that has the shape flex. Okay, now we want to take the piece that's going to be the front of the bag with the fusible fleece, one of those pieces, and we're going to fold that in half. Find our center point. And since this has the fusible fleece on it, I think I'm going to try to mark it on the front. And for this, we're going to measure down 3 inches on that center mark. Let me turn it this way. And I'm going to make a mark. Hopefully we can see that. It's not showing up very well. Let me use I'm just going to use this. You guys will be able to see it better. I'm going to make a mark. So I'm 3 inches down from the straight edge now. I'm going to take one of my washers, place it right over that mark, mark the two sides. And we're going to repeat the same thing. We're just going to make a slight hole where the side marks are. And this time we're going to put the snap right through the pretty side into the back. And I lost a washer, see? That's why I did the magnetic thing. Oh, there it is. All right, and we're going to put our washer on. bend the prongs back. All right, so now you can kind of check this if you want. This is going to set like this. You should have some overhang, so mine looks about like that when the snap is connected. All right, so we're going to leave our lining pieces over here and our outer pieces over here. The next thing we're going to do is work on our pleats. So you're going to take one of your pieces, and where you have this pleat, you're just going to fold it in half so that that pleat lines up with a straight edge, just like that. So there's the pleat. We're just going to fold it in half, and then we're just going to stitch from this edge to this edge, back stitching at both ends just to secure that pleat. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then you want to check your pleat and just make sure that it is closed all the way. And then you're going to repeat it on this side. So now you can see it's kind of forming a little bit of a bowl shape. So you want to go ahead and do that to all 4 of your main pieces, folding it together, pretty sides together, and securing that pleat. All right, once you have all 4 of your pleats done, the next thing we're going to do is start assembly. This goes together really, really easily. Now, the one thing you have a choice of is whether you want to put your tab coming out of the top like I did here. And if so, you can wait to install that. If you would rather have it coming out of the side right here, you're going to want to take your 2 outer fabrics, the one that you are using, or the one that has the fusible fleece, and you're going to want to thread your D-ring through it, your little tab piece, and you're just going to want to secure that down about 1/8 of an inch away right here on the side that you want it to be on. If you want it to come out of the top, we'll install that later. So I'm going to have mine coming out of the top. All right, so now we want to put our pretty sides together, and we have these pleats in them. So turn both of your pleats so that they kind of cup into each other. And you're going to line those pleats up and clip, and then line it up all the way around. And when you get to the pleat, you might want to push one way and one the other way. That'll just reduce some bulk. All right, and then you're going to do the same thing to your lining. Pretty sides together. Turn those pleats so they're cupping into each other. And clip. Okay, so now you're going to take it over the sewing machine and you're going to backstitch and sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Backstitch at the end, leave the top open. Same thing over here. Backstitch all the way around, backstitch, leave the top open. Okay, so if you have pinking shears, now is a great time to use them right around these corners. If you don't have pinking shears, just use your scissors and cut some notches in right around those corners. That's just going to help everything turn around better. Make sure you don't cut into your stitch lines. And you're going to do that on both the outer and your lining. Okay, so we've got those stitched closed, both our outer and our lining. Now we are going to take our two flat pieces and we're going to line those up pretty sides together and give those a clip. And you're going to take that over to the sewing machine, backstitch, so all the way around, backstitch using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can go ahead and leave that top open, but we're going to stitch all the way around and backstitch. Okay, so we've got that done, and again, you want to use your pinking shears or clip into the corners anywhere that's rounded, and just get rid of the excess seam allowance. Okay, so now you can turn your flap right side out. And you might want to get in there with a bone folder or a chopstick and just make sure everything is nice and smooth. And then it's optional if you want to do this step or not. I did. I think it makes it look a little bit more finished, but take it over to the iron and press it, and then do a top stitch right along this top edge and back up. It's just a top stitch, it's just decorative. The next thing we're going to do is take one of our pieces, I'm using the lining, and you're going to fold this down about 1/4 inch. And you can measure it, you can eyeball it, whatever works for you, but you want about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. It really doesn't matter, but you need to make sure you do both of them the same way. So I've got that one down, and then I'm going to do this one the same way. And it actually helps, especially on this fusible fleece one, if you cut some of that seam allowance out of that top corner, just to give it a little less bulk. All right. Once you have those lined up so that they look like they are about the same, I've got a little bit more over here. Take it over to the iron and press that down nice and flat. Now you might want to use a seam gauge and measure and make sure that it's even all the way around. I've had pretty good luck eyeballing it, but you guys know me, I'm not about perfection. But if you want it that way, go ahead and measure. All right, so I'm going to take this over to the iron and press this down. Okay, so once you have both of those pressed down, you're going to take your outer fabric, the one with the fusible fleece, and you're going to flip it right side out. And again, you might want to use that bone folder or chopstick and make sure everything is pressed out nicely. And now those seams that we pressed should be on the inside, so it should look like this. You might want to give it another press. Okay, so it looks like this. Now you're going to take your lining piece and put that right inside. Now the first thing you want to do is line up the side seams. And you're going to want to use clips for this, or a pen, either way, but you're going to want to clip it. And then you're going to line up the opposite side seam. And you're lining up that those top edges as well. Okay, and now you can kind of manipulate the rest into place. And start finishing your clipping all the way around. We're going to undo some of these in a second, but I just like to get everything in place so that I know we're ready to go. And here it really does help to have more clips than less. I'm not a big clipper, but we're dealing with some bulk here, and it's easier if you keep everything in place. All right, so this is the inside of our bag. Now we've got the lining and we've got this all clipped into place. The part with the buckle is going to, or the magnetic closure is going to be the front. So we should have that front and center. And the opposite side is going to be the back, which is where our flap is going to fit. Now at this point you could flip this over. Well, no, you couldn't because the snap's in there. So what we're going to do is undo this back clips, and we're going to tuck this flap right inside. And I am tucking it in to about just past where the fold is of the lining. And I want to make sure that it's straight, so I'm going to kind of line it up on my grid, looking up here. This is the center. It's coming down, looking really good. And then I find this part the easiest to pin into place with straight pins. So I'm just going to open it up and pin that lining and that flap and my outer back piece back in place. So I'll turn this over and show you in just a second. Oops. Okay, so this is what I've got. I have the flap tucked inside. It's sandwiched in between the lining and the outer back fabric. And I have it pinned into place just like this. And then we come around the side. Now, if you didn't already put your D-ring tab in on the side here, you need to insert it now. And what I did was put the D-ring through our little tab, and then I sandwiched that tab right here on this side, right at that side seam. And I kind of like this on the other one that I did. Well, let me get this clipped into place and I'll show you. On the other one, I actually put a tab on each side. And if I don't want it, I can take it out. But this way I could put a cross body bag strap and take this one off since these are on lobster clasp. I could change it out and have more of a purse style rather than a clutch. So it's up to you however you want to do it, but I thought that was kind of a neat, versatile way, and I can just tuck that tab in there if I don't want it, and I could use it for my keys on the inside or whatever. So the tabs, I left it so that it could go in or out. All right, so you can, if you want to do that option, you absolutely can. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is take this over to the sewing machine, and you're going to stitch all the way around the bag using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You want to make sure you keep this nice and straight because it's going to show. I'm using white thread so that you can see what I'm doing, but you probably want to use a thread that blends with your fabric so that you're not as noticeable if you don't have perfectly straight stitches. So I find it easy on my sewing machine to take the arm off and start sewing. I like to start sewing at the side seam opposite of where the tab is, just so that I can get going. And you just want to make sure everything is lined up, and then go ahead and start your stitching. All right, once you have that done, you are basically done with the pouch. Put something on it there. Now we just need to make our handle, so we're going to do that next. So we're going to take our 2 by 12 piece, and again, you've got that folded into 4, so it's now a 1/4 inch folded in half. You're going to thread your lobster clasp through it, and then you're going to take both, you're going to open it up, and you're going to put pretty sides together from both ends. Make sure it's not twisted, so it looks like this. So basically we just unfolded what we had folded, and you're going to stitch that closed right across that short end. Okay, so we've got that sewn shut. You can just kind of use your fingers and finger press that open, that seam. All right, and then you're going to use those pressing marks that we made and fold it back up. So we're folding this back the way it was, folding the sides into the middle, and then folding it in half. And it should want to do it since we've already pressed it, but you might have to coax it a little bit. So just take your time, get it folded back up. Okay, once you have it folded back up like this, your lobster clasp is hanging off of it somewhere. You can keep moving that out of the way as you manipulate this back into place. You're going to take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch that open end closed. And all you're going to do is keep rotating it under the presser foot like this and just keep moving the lobster clasp out of your way. So I'm going to go ahead and get mine stitched. Alright, so I've got one stitch going. Now I'm going to put a matching stitch on the other side. That's totally optional, it's just decorative. Okay, so I've got 2 rows of stitching, so my handle looks consistent. And I've got a little thread here, let me pull that off. So now I'm going to try to find where I added the 2 seams together. There's a little bit of a join. I'm just going to pull that lobster clasp around over there and just try to center it on it. It doesn't have to be, it just kind of hides that join. And then you're just going to fold it in half and run a stitch right across here, back and forth a couple of times, and that will just secure the lobster clasp in place. And that's it. You just finished your cute little summer clutch. And these are so fun. They're the perfect size to throw your wallet in there, your phone, some keys, whatever you need. It's a little bit bigger than that wristlet that I made the other day. So that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I think it's a really cute project and it's going to make great gift ideas or for sell in your Etsy shops or whatever you like. A great grab and go for the summer. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to grab your PDF or the Cricut Design Space patterns below the video. They are in the description, as well as a list of all the products I use. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, until next time, never stop making. See you guys. Bye.